Maggie Fitzpatrick, and today we're going to be talking about crowd work in comedy. And if you don't know what crowd work is, it's basically when a comedian interacts directly with an audience member or a group of audience members and then makes jokes out of their conversation. And so a lot of times the jokes are like about what their job is or whether the people are on a date, and they work off of that information to make some sort of joke. Anyway, it's kind of taking over comedy. So there are like whole hour-long specials just of crowd work by a bunch of different comedians. It's kind of the huge thing right now. And it became popular pretty recently. I would say that it's always kind of been around. Initially, it started as something that was like done before the act. So when they were warming up or they were getting their mic set up and they were kind of on stage, they do crowd work to interact and connect with the audience. But it was never a formal part of the show in the way it is now. And I think that that has largely happened specifically because of the rise of social media. So people want to put clips online of their stand up on social media, but they don't want to have to give away a lot of the jokes that they're going to be telling that are like written jokes. So they make crowd work clips that they can put out so they can get their name out there and people know who they are, but they don't have to give away those jokes so that people aren't coming to show to see them and then just hearing the same jokes that they've already seen for free online. And so this is a way for them to have content to use without having to sacrifice the bit when the person's at the show. And it also helps the performer connect with the audience. They feel like they're part of the show and that they have a personal connection with the comedian. So that can be really helpful when they're telling jokes and trying to create a connection. Hi y'all, I'm Maggie Fitzpatrick. Thing about crowd work is it's very controversial. So people either really love it or really hate it. So obviously a lot of people like it. Crowd work comedians are selling out stadiums, like Matt Rife, who's a really prolific crowd work comedian. He does a lot of crowd work and probably revolutionized the concept of crowd work. I think he probably popularized it, at least for young people. I think he's where I kind of first heard about it, and people saw him like posting clips online and were like, oh, this is actually a good move economically or like from a business standpoint for comedy. But a lot of people really hate crowd work. And I kind of have some hypotheses. We got there. Okay. On why I think people hate crowd work. And I'd say the first reason is that this is just a fact, bring more hecklers because people, like I said, want to be a part of the show and feel like they're part of a show. So they might come to a show expecting a bunch of crowd work and decide that when it's not that, to heckle so that they can, one, force crowd work, and two, can be a part of the show. Like a lot of times they'll think they're actually helping the comedian by giving them the opportunity to do crowd work and have content when in reality they're interrupting the show and just being a disruption. But I'd also argue that it gives a way for comedians to respond to hecklers. So like when someone is heckling, they can respond with crowd work and kind of combat that and de-escalate the situation in a manner that keeps it comedic and that I don't think they'd have the means to do without crowd work. So people just want a traditional show, but I think there are still lots of traditional comedy shows out there that aren't crowd work, and most of the people doing crowd work online are still doing traditional comedy shows, like written jokes. They just aren't sharing those online because they want to save them for when people actually come to the show. Some comedians, like Josh Johnson, he posts a new special every week on YouTube. So the stuff he's posting online is just written jokes because he probably won't use them again because he's just so good at like cranking out material. It's very impressive. And I think another reason people hate crowd work is because they associate it with like problematic comedians who are just saying problematic stuff and are using crowd work as a means to say like racist, sexist, transphobic things and directly attacking audience members. And yes, but I also think those same comedians are saying problematic stuff during their normal shows too, so it's really not that different. Like you shouldn't hate crowd work altogether because there's these atrocious people doing atrocious things with crowd work, because they're also doing atrocious things with regular comedy. So if you're gonna hate crowd work because of that, you should hate comedy because of that. But that's also ridiculous. Like I said, a lot of times, sometimes people will use crowd work as a way to be mean to the audience, and I think that a good comedian will pay attention to if a person's laughing at the jokes and then kind of basing it off of that about how far they want to go. And like people will ask if the person in the audience consents to crowd work, and just kind of like you don't have to always be mean to the audience member. That's not necessarily something that every comedian does during crowd work. It doesn't have to just be bullying the audience member. And I'd argue that if you're good at crowd work, you don't have to bully audience members. You can do like light teasing, but it's not really the same thing. So I think that's good to note. Let's hear it right from the source. These are some direct comments I found online about people talking about crowd work. They said, crowd work has ruined stand up comedy, so definitely not a fan. It is so effing lazy. Dang. Tell us how you really feel. What? You're crazy. It's always fresh to see, quote, who's on a date and where do you work. Then they followed up with, oh, really? Insert weak incest or OnlyFans punchline. You must be mad that you can't be that unique and original. Yeah, this is in response to someone saying they hated crowd work, and so this person posted this really sarcastic comment being like, what? Really? That's ridiculous. And then gives all these reasons why you should hate crowd work. I am pretty much on the NYC mind of things when it comes to crowd work. It's a crutch, write jokes. I don't have good material, so I need to do crowd work. So you get the idea. It's not super popular. But I gotta say, I love crowd work. I think it's so impressive that someone can come up with jokes so quickly, even if, like, I know the typical strategies kind of have general responses for different ideas or like concepts that'll probably come through when interacting with people, but like you still have to think on your feet and have the ability to really work your way to a bit, and I think that's so impressive. So I'm going to try and talk about all the reasons that I love crowd work and maybe change the haters or hecklers minds. The first reason is that it takes a whole different skill set than traditional stand up. Like, you have to spot who in the room to talk to, you have to read the room for what kind of vibe for jokes you want to tell, navigating the conversation to even find a bit, because sometimes you're going to interact with someone and it's going to be a dead end, or like you have to really milk a bit out of them to find something that's like actually juicy. And I think that's pretty impressive. And then you have to, on your feet, deliver a punchline in a smooth manner. And I think that's super impressive. And like obviously when you're doing traditional stand up, you have to do it in a smooth manner. Like that's just how you do stand up to be successful. But like you get to practice that over and over, whereas with crowd work, you get like one chance and you're just kind of have that chance to do it right then and that's it. And that's very different. And honestly, I'd say much higher stakes. And you kind of have to riff with yourself. So like you have a concept for a bit that you get from talking to them, but then you have to keep going off of that to find something new, and I think that's really impressive as well. Another benefit of crowd work is it gives the opportunity to connect with the performer. I kind of talked about this already, but like some of my favorite comedians use crowd work as a means to really build community with their audiences. Like Taylor Tomlinson, who's probably my favorite comedian, she does at her on the tour she's on right now, the Save Me tour, she does these things called crowd confessions, where she sits on a pew because it's like a huge theme. Religious trauma is a huge theme in the show, and she has people send in responses to a bunch of questions that she has in the brochure that she hands out at the, I guess she doesn't hand it out, but they hand out before the show. And like she then riffs off of the responses that people send in and reads them, and I just think it's really fun. And I also think it's good because normally when people do crowd work, they only really talk to the people in the first few rows because they have to literally yell, like they have to be able to hear them and talk back and forth. But sending them in allows her to have more responses and be able to talk to people who are like all over the all in the audience in different places, and I think that's really cool. But anyway, I went to one of her shows, and it really helped, I think, make the show even better than it would have been with just traditional stand up. And then Gianmarco Soresi, Gianmarco Ceresi reconnecting with people. I wrote something and I don't know what to say. Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay, Gianmarco Ceresi, he had people come to his shows previously who he reconnected with as a result of doing crowd work. Like, he just happened to be talking to them again, and they were like, yeah, you talked to me already. We kind of talked about this certain thing, and then he gets to follow up and like build off of that bit. And I just think that's so cool, like that you almost build a relationship with the performer that you would not have just from stand up, because you're kind of removed from the audience. Like, yes, you have to play off of them and read the room, but like you're not making a direct connection with them in the same way you would with crowd work. And then the final reason is just that it's funny. Crowd work can be really funny if it's done right. And like that's literally what you want from a comedian. Like, the whole point is to laugh. So whether that's from traditional stand-up or from crowd work, like I think people should be happy at getting the chance to laugh. Like, look at all these clips. They're just so funny. Look at these.
Having kids is passing on my traumas. The best part about having kids is to pass on my sense of humor, hopefully. Well, they're not going to have your sense of humor unless you traumatize them. That is just math. Bingo.
How long have you been together?
33 years.
33 years? Where did you leave? Three kindergarten? Do you have kids?
Yeah.
Okay, so staying together for the kids, that's a beautiful thing. I like kids. They're adults? Yeah, I guess. Fuck, how old are they now?
23 and 25.
Hell yeah, what do they do?
One's in medical school.
Shit, good.
And the other one, she does catering.
1 for 2. That's why you gotta have 2. You can't be risking it all in one. One of them will save your life one day, and then when you finally reach the end, the other will cater the funeral. You're going to college now? Yeah. Okay, that's good. What are you going to study?
Environmental science.
Environmental science. Just better hurry. What do the teachers say at this point? Welcome to environmental science. First lesson. Ah! So class, what are we going to do about this? Yes, get water. That's right, John. Get a lot of water. Do you hope that you're going to help the world?
I mean, I guess so.
Oh my God, you don't give me any confidence about my future. What about you?
I'm gonna be a teacher.
You're gonna be a teacher. So you're already giving up? No, what do you want to teach?
Elementary.
Oh, okay, that's very cute. That's wonderful. I think based on this environmental protections guy, there's not gonna be any more kids in a couple of years. Just go to college, get drunk, have fun. It's over!
But you guys look under 21, is that right? What year are you? Are you at Wisco? Oh, you're in high school. That is scary. Why'd they say you up front? You go to high school? You paid for well, no, your parents paid for it. How do you have money? Wait, okay, someone's got to chill back there. Yelling repeatedly which high school, totally fine if you also go to high school. If you don't, super creepy. Tell me which high school now. Where can I find you during the day?
Decide between the two. Just want to know which one.
Oh, what are the two?
East and West. Oh.
What is it, the 40s? What? Sorry, I'm not in like a John Travolta movie, so I will not accept the answer. There's 2 rival high schools. East and West. The East, those are the greasers. The West, yeah, those are the bad boys. So which is it, ladies? You a Slytherin or are you a Gryffindor? McFarland? Yeah, see, that is a reasonable answer. What's McFarland known for? Nothing. Okay. Who's the high school snob behind you? Okay, I just want to know, because I said, what is McFarland known for? And the person behind who already has dissected the high school universe into compass directions was like, McFarland's known for nothing. You either go to East or West or you're a nobody in this town.
What year were you born? Jesus Christ! 2008 you were born? No. You don't even know about 9/11.
I learned recently that it's called 9/11 because it's on September 11th.
Why did you think it was called 9/11? You just thought that was a cool name for it? Somebody called 9/11. Shorty building dropping on the dance floor.
Interested in sharks and not historical events.
What do you know about sharks?
Everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me 5 shark facts quickly.
Okay, so did you know?
Holy shit, I love how quickly you rose to that challenge.
So, regardless of how you feel about crowd work, it's definitely around to stay. So, I think it's safe to say that, like, it's going to be here. And so, hopefully, I gave you some reasons to like crowd work or even just consider being more open minded to it and maybe introduce you to some new comedians that you'd like. So, I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out all those comedians because they're all lovely human beings. I guess I don't know if they're good people, but they're all very funny, and that's what all you need from a comedian. So, bye!